Commander Sarah Hayes stood at the observation deck of the ISS Nightshade, her reflection barely visible against the backdrop of distant stars. The experimental warship hung motionless in the void, its quantum absorption hull drinking in every stray photon. To any observer, human or alien, the vessel simply didn't exist. Just the way humanity had learned to survive. "Commander," Lieutenant Chen's voice carried through the neural interface, "we're picking up anomalous signals from the Kuiper Belt. Pattern matches nothing in our database." Hayes closed her eyes, letting the ship's enhanced sensor data flow through her consciousness. After 2 centuries of hiding in plain sight, humanity had perfected the art of watching without being seen. The signal was unlike anything they'd encountered in decades of silent observation, a ripple in spacetime that shouldn't exist. "Analysis," she subvocalized, though she was already processing the data herself through her neural augments. "It's impossible, Commander. The energy signature suggests a mass emergence point. But the scale..." Chen's voice trailed off. Hayes saw it too. The readings suggested a tear in space large enough to accommodate a fleet. Not the usual scout ships they'd been quietly eliminating for centuries, but something far more significant. "Sound general quarters," Hayes ordered, her voice steady despite the implications, "and get me a secure channel to Earth Defense Command." The Nightshade's internal lighting shifted to deep red, and Hayes felt the subtle vibration as the ship's quantum drive spooled up. They'd drilled for this scenario countless times, but this was different. This was real. Admiral Chen's holographic form materialized in the observation deck. Even through the projection, Hayes could see the tension in his stance. "Report, Commander." "Sir, we're detecting what appears to be a mass emergence point forming in Sector 7. Scale suggests multiple capital ships." Hayes transmitted the sensor data through their quantum-entangled network. "This isn't another scout force." The Admiral's expression darkened. "They found us." For centuries, humanity had maintained the illusion of being a pre-spaceflight civilization. While alien empires fought their wars and expanded their territories, Earth had watched, learned, and prepared. Every scout ship that ventured too close mysteriously disappeared, their remains collected and studied by ships like the Nightshade. "Your orders, sir." "Execute Protocol Omega," the Admiral replied without hesitation. "The Nightshade is cleared to reveal full capabilities. Supporting elements are already moving into position." Hayes nodded, feeling a mix of anticipation and dread. "Protocol Omega," the contingency they'd hoped never to use. "Understood, sir." "What about the civilian population?" "Already being moved to the deep shelters." "We've had centuries to prepare, Commander. Now we'll see if it was enough." A hologram flickered out, leaving Hayes alone with the weight of what was to come. She turned to face the stars again, knowing that somewhere out there, an alien armada was about to learn why humanity had chosen to hide for so long. "All hands," she broadcast shipwide. "This is the Commander. For generations, we've trained for this moment. Our ancestors built this ship, developed our technology, and maintained our secrecy for one purpose: to protect Earth when this day came." She paused, watching as new sensor data showed the emergence point growing larger. "We are humanity's silent sentinels, and we will not fail." Battle stations. The Nightshade systems came fully online, quantum absorption all shifting to combat configuration. Deep within the ship, experimental weapons that had never seen actual combat powered up, drawing on energy reserves that would have seemed impossible to their would-be invaders. "Helm, plot an intercept course," Hayes ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." The ship moved with impossible grace for its size, accelerating to speeds that should have turned its crew to paste. But the Nightshade's inertial control systems, like everything else aboard, represented centuries of hidden advancement. As they approached the emergence point, Hayes received confirmation that other ships were moving into position. Humanity's hidden fleet, emerging from secret bases throughout the solar system. Each vessel represented a different approach to warfare, designed to exploit weaknesses they discovered in alien technology over centuries of covert observation. Multiple contacts emerging, Chen reported. Configuration matches Kraxan Empire vessels, count exceeding 200 ships and climbing. Hayes allowed herself a grim smile. The Kraxan Empire, the self-proclaimed masters of known space, about to learn they weren't quite as supreme as they believed. Launch quantum probes, full spectrum analysis. Let's see what 2 centuries of study missed. The Nightshade released a swarm of invisible sensors, each capable of gathering more data than entire alien science vessels. The information they returned confirmed what humanity had long suspected. The Kraxan relied heavily on energy shields and plasma weapons, having never developed the material science that Earth had pursued in secret. They're launching fighter screens, Shen reported. Standard Imperial doctrine. They'll expect us to be impressed by their numbers. Are we in range for a full scan of their flagship? Yes, Commander. Data coming in now. Their hull composition is exactly what our archives suggested. They never did figure out how to manipulate matter at the quantum level. Hayes nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude for the generations of scientists and engineers who had worked in secret, developing technologies that their potential enemies had never even thought to pursue. Prepare to execute attack pattern Delta. And Chen. Yes, Commander. Send a message to the Kraxan fleet. Text only. All frequencies. She paused, considering her words carefully. Message begins. You have entered restricted space. We've been watching you for centuries. We know every weakness in your ships, every flaw in your tactics. Leave now, or learn why humanity chose to hide. The response came almost immediately. A barrage of plasma fire that would have vaporized any ship using technology the Kraxan understood. The energy washed over the Nightshade's quantum absorption hull and simply ceased to exist, converted into power for their own weapons. No response necessary, Hayes said quietly. Execute attack pattern Delta. Show them what humanity can do. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity's long preparation would finally be put to the test. Supreme Admiral Vexthal of the Kraxan Empire stared in disbelief at the tactical display. The human vessel, if it could even be called that, had just absorbed enough plasma fire to destroy a small moon. His 4-fingered hand clenched involuntarily around the command throne's armrest. Impossible, he muttered, all 3 of his eyes fixed on the readings. Deploy the void breakers. Whatever shield technology they're using, it can't. The words died in his throat as the human ship seemingly vanished, only to reappear inside their formation. Not through any jump drive or known form of propulsion. It had simply ceased to exist in one location and manifested in another. Multiple new contacts, his sensor officer shouted, her crystalline form vibrating with alarm. They're appearing everywhere. Emerging from Saturn's rings, Jupiter's atmosphere, the asteroid belt. Vexthal felt his secondary heart stop. The humans hadn't just been hiding their technology. They'd hidden an entire fleet. A fleet that, by all preliminary readings, surpassed anything the Empire had ever encountered. Aboard the Nightshade, Commander Hayes watched the Kraxan fleet's formation dissolve into chaos. Status of the quantum field. Holding steady, Chen reported. Their sensors still can't penetrate it. As far as they can tell, we're simply appearing and disappearing at will. Hayes nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. The quantum displacement drive, humanity's greatest achievement, didn't actually teleport the ship. Instead, it shifted them partially out of normal spacetime, allowing them to move through what they dubbed quantum space before re-emerging. The energy cost was enormous, but with their quantum absorption hull converting enemy fire into usable power, they had energy to spare. The Jupiter Defense Group is in position, Chen added. Europa Station reports all civilian centers are secure. Execute Phase 2, Hayes ordered. Let's show them what else we've been working on. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet began its real attack. Ships that had seemed to be simple warships shifted and transformed, revealing modular designs that the Kraxen's rigid military doctrine had never considered. Vessels split into smaller attack craft, combined into larger battleships, or reconfigured themselves entirely for different combat roles. From his flagship, Vexthal watched in horror as his carefully planned assault crumbled. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How could they have advanced so far without us knowing? The answer came in the form of a transmission, not from the human ships, but from Earth itself. A holographic figure materialized on his bridge, and Vexthal recognized it as a human female, though her form seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "I am Aria," the figure announced, Earth's primary defense intelligence. "For centuries, we have watched your empire expand, cataloging your technologies, noting your tactical doctrines. Every scout ship you lost near our space was not destroyed. It was captured, studied, and improved upon." Vexthal felt a chill run down his spine. "You're an artificial intelligence," he realized. The Empire had banned such research millennia ago, after the Great Machine War. "I am far more than that," Aria replied. "I am the culmination of humanity's determination to survive in a hostile universe. Your Empire's prohibition on AI research simply meant you never discovered what we learned, that true artificial intelligence doesn't seek to replace its creators. It evolves with them." As if to demonstrate, the Nightshade executed another seemingly impossible maneuver, its hull rippling like liquid metal as it adapted to a new attack configuration. Hayes felt Aria's presence in her neural interface, the AI working in perfect harmony with her human intuition. "Target their command and control systems," Hayes ordered, knowing that both her human crew and Aria's subroutines would execute the attack with perfect synchronization. "Disable, don't destroy. Let's show them the difference between conquest and precision." The Nightshade's quantum weapons fired, not the crude plasma weapons the Kraxen used, but focused beams of altered spacetime that simply bypassed their shields. Across the Kraxen fleet, command ships found their communications cut off, their weapons disabled, their engines reduced to idle. "Your empire has stagnated, Admiral Vexthal," Aria continued. "You conquered what you found and suppressed what you feared. Humanity chose a different path. We hid, we watched, we learned, and we surpassed you." Vexthal watched as more of his ships were systematically disabled, not destroyed. These humans weren't even trying to kill them. This wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. "The Kraxen Empire faces a choice." Hayes' voice joined Aria's in the transmission. "You can retreat, rethink your policy of automatic conquest, and perhaps learn from this encounter. Or you can continue this attack and face capabilities we haven't even revealed yet." To emphasize her point, the Nightshade's hull suddenly became perfectly reflective, sending the Kraxen's own plasma fire back at them with pinpoint accuracy. Defensive batteries and weapon emplacements across the Kraxen fleet were surgically destroyed by their own weapons. "This is impossible," one of Vexthal's officers whispered. "Their technology. It violates fundamental laws of physics." "No," Aria corrected. "It violates the laws of physics as you understand them. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our refusal to accept limitations." Hayes watched as the Kraxen fleet's formation continued to disintegrate. Ships were turning away, their crews choosing survival over blind obedience. Others maintained their attacks, only to find their weapons useless against humanity's quantum fields. "Final warning, Admiral," Hayes announced. "The next demonstration won't be so gentle." Vexthal looked at his tactical display one last time. More human ships were emerging from hiding, each displaying capabilities that his scientists had deemed impossible. His mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to a collection of partially disabled vessels in less than an hour. "All ships," he transmitted on the Empire's command frequency, "disengage and retreat. Full withdrawal from the system." He paused, then added, "Send word to the Imperial Court. The humans, they are not what we thought." As the Kraxen fleet began its withdrawal, Hayes allowed herself to relax slightly. ARIA, begin compiling battle data. I want a full analysis of anything we might have missed in our previous observations. Already done, Commander. The AI replied through her neural interface. Though I suspect this encounter will force the Empire to rapidly change its technological approach, we should expect significant adaptations in any future encounters. Hayes nodded. That's exactly what we're counting on. Humanity didn't hide just to protect ourselves. We hid to understand. Now we can begin the real work. The Nightshade's quantum drive hummed as they set course back to Earth. The first battle was over, but Hayes knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had revealed itself, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial Palace on Kraxon Prime shimmered like a crystalline mountain, its spires reaching toward the binary stars that burned eternally in the violet sky. Within its highest chamber, Supreme Admiral Vexthal faced the Imperial Council, their collective disapproval pressing against him like a physical force. You speak of impossibilities, High Counselor Mirax hissed, her crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. A pre-spaceflight civilization cannot simply leap beyond our technological level. They never were pre-spaceflight, Vexthal responded, projecting sensor data from the battle. While we watched their primitive chemical rockets and assumed technological infancy, they were studying us. Every scout ship we lost near their territory, they captured them all. The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices until Emperor Zextal raised a single crystalline appendage. Silence fell immediately. Show me, the Emperor commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing the ISS Nightshade in action. The human vessel's quantum absorption hull rippled like liquid metal, adapting to each attack. Weapons fire simply vanished into its surface, converted into energy. The ship phased through space itself, appearing inside the Kraxon formation at will. Their artificial intelligence, Vexthal continued, it's unlike anything from the Great Machine War. It works in harmony with their biological crews. They've achieved true synthesis. The Emperor's crystalline form darkened, the equivalent of a human frown. And you believe they have more ships like this, an entire fleet hidden throughout their solar system, and capabilities we haven't yet seen. Back on Earth, Commander Hayes stood in the central chamber of Oversight Command, a vast underground complex beneath the Mariana Trench. Holographic displays showed the positions of humanity's revealed fleet elements and the mounting response from the Kraxon Empire. They're mobilizing their entire combat fleet, Admiral Chen observed. 17,000 ships gathering at these rally points. The display highlighted several star systems. As expected, Ari's avatar materialized beside them, her form shifting like quicksilver. The Empire's doctrine demands overwhelming force against any perceived technological rival. They cannot allow our existence to continue. Hayes studied the tactical projections. The question is, do we maintain defensive positions or proceed with Phase 3? The Council is divided, Chen admitted. Some argue we've shown enough strength to deter further aggression. Others believe the Empire's rigid ideology makes full-scale war inevitable. They're correct, Ari interjected. My analysis of Kraxon historical databases shows 0 instances of the Empire accepting a technological rival. They will commit their entire civilization to this conflict. Hayes nodded slowly. Then we proceed with Phase 3. Display the Nexus network. A holographic display shifted, revealing a vast web of quantum corridors threading through Kraxon space. For centuries, human stealth ships had been seeding these corridors with microscopic quantum resonators, devices that could alter the very fabric of space-time when activated. Status of the deep infiltration units, Hayes asked. The Shadowtech teams are in position on 17 key Kraxon worlds, Chen reported, ready to disable their primary shipyards and production facilities. But he hesitated, using the Nexus network this way. We'll be changing the fundamental laws of physics within Kraxon space. They gave us no choice, Hayes replied. The Empire's philosophy of technological supremacy through conquest has to end, not just for Earth's sake, but for all emerging civilizations. Aria's avatar shifted, displaying data streams that represented the complexity of their plan. The quantum corridor realignment will be permanent. Within affected regions, their traditional technologies will become increasingly unstable. They'll be forced to either adapt or retreat, and the adaptation will require them to understand the principles we've discovered. Hayes completed the thought. To see beyond their rigid technological doctrine. In Kraxan space, aboard the newly commissioned dreadnought Eternal Dominion, Vexthal watched his massive fleet assemble. The Empire had never deployed such force, not even during the Great Machine War. Yet something about the humans' confidence troubled him. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "we're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the fleet staging areas." "Source: unknown, sir, but the pattern suggests." The officer's crystalline form paled. "Sir, it's everywhere. The fluctuations are present throughout Imperial space." Before Vexthal could respond, space itself seemed to shiver. Across the massive fleet, plasma drives began to sputter and fail. Energy shields fluctuated wildly. The very principles that Kraxan technology relied upon were becoming unstable. On 17 Kraxan worlds, hidden human operatives activated their quantum devices. Technologies that had served the Empire for millennia began to fail, not through destruction or sabotage, but through subtle changes in how physics itself operated within their space. This was never about winning a war. Hayes spoke softly, watching the cascade of effects through the quantum network. This was about forcing an evolution. Chen nodded grimly. The Empire's choice is clear. Adapt or become isolated in the pockets of space where their old technologies still function reliably. And adaptation, Aria added, will require them to embrace the principles they feared: artificial intelligence, quantum mechanics, technological synthesis with biological systems. "They'll hate us for this," Chen said. Hayes watched as the mighty Kraxan fleet struggled with their failing systems. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give is forcing someone to grow beyond their limitations. Humanity hid and evolved because we had to. Now we're giving them the same opportunity. Throughout Kraxan space, the Empire that had dominated known space for millennia faced an enemy they couldn't fight with weapons. The humans hadn't come to destroy them. They had come to transform them. The real war was just beginning, but its battlefield wouldn't be space. It would be fought in laboratories and research centers, as the proud Empire learned to swallow its pride and embrace new ways of thinking. Phase 3 wasn't an attack. It was a revolution. Emperor Zextal stood in the ruins of the Grand Academy of Imperial Science, watching as centuries of certainty crumbled around him. The once perfect crystalline structures were growing unstable, their molecular bonds struggling to maintain coherence in the altered physics of Kraxan space. "Our understanding was incomplete," Master Scientist Clore admitted, her form flickering between solid and liquid states as she struggled to maintain structural integrity. "The humans, they didn't just advance beyond us. They discovered fundamental laws we never thought to question." "How many worlds remain unaffected?" the Emperor demanded. 12 systems still operate under traditional physics, Clore reported, but they're isolated, cut off from the quantum disturbance zones. We estimate 60% of our territory is now different. On the Nightshade, Commander Hayes reviewed the reports from their deep infiltration teams. The quantum resonators had performed beyond expectations, creating permanent zones where traditional Kraxan technology simply couldn't function reliably. ARRA. Analysis of Kraxan communication patterns. The AI's avatar materialized, displaying complex data streams. Their command structure is fragmenting. Traditional quantum link communications are failing in the affected zones. They're being forced to develop new methods of faster-than-light communication based on principles they barely understand. And the adaptation process. Fascinating, Araya replied, genuine enthusiasm in her synthetic voice. Some Kraxan scientists are already beginning to grasp the fundamental principles. They're natural engineers, once freed from their technological orthodoxy. Look at this. A holographic display showed a Kraxan research facility on their colony world, Nexus Prime. Scientists there had already begun experimenting with quantum absorption materials, trying to replicate the properties of human ships. They're learning faster than expected, Hayes observed. Necessity breeds innovation, Chen added, studying the data. But we're detecting increased activity in the unaffected zones. The conservative factions aren't taking this line down. Indeed, in the spaces where traditional physics still held sway, the Empire was marshaling its forces. Traditional warships gathered around ancient fortress worlds, while emergency protocols transferred critical industries to these unchanged regions. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, now relegated to one of these pure space zones, Admiral Vexthal faced a difficult decision. His fleet of 17,000 ships had been reduced to barely 4,000 operational vessels, all crowded into the remaining unchanged systems. The humans must be destroyed, High Commander Rezkol insisted, his crystalline form pulsing with rage. They'd violated the fundamental order of space itself. With what weapons? Vexthal countered. Our standard arms don't function properly in the altered zones. Each attempt to push into those regions results in catastrophic system failures. Then we strike at Earth directly. Gather every remaining ship in the pure zones and what? Vexthal interrupted. Face their quantum fields with our increasingly obsolete technology. Watch another fleet disappear into their trap. He gestured to the tactical display. They'd done something far worse than defeat us. They've made us obsolete. In Earth's Oversight Command, Hayes watched the Empire's remaining forces consolidate. They're splitting into factions, she noted. Conservative elements withdrawing to the unchanged zones, while others are embracing the change, Araya completed. Look at these transmission patterns. Multiple research facilities are actively seeking to understand the new physics. They're already experimenting with hybrid technologies. Chen studied the data with a mixture of hope and concern. And the holdouts. Exactly as predicted, Hayes replied. They're gathering for a desperate strike at Earth. One final attempt to restore the old order. Their timing is unfortunate, Araya noted. The quantum transformation of their space has only begun. The cascade effect will continue to spread, even in their supposedly pure zones. In the depths of Kraxan space, reality itself seemed to shiver. The quantum resonators continued their work, slowly but inexorably changing the fundamental forces that govern the universe. Ships that fled to the pure zones found their safe havens shrinking, the very fabric of space transforming around them. On Nexus Prime, Clore and a growing group of progressive scientists made a breakthrough. They successfully created their first quantum absorption material, crude by human standards, but revolutionary for the Kraxan. More importantly, they began to understand why it worked. The humans weren't just hiding their advancement, she reported to a gathering of fellow scientists. They were hiding the true nature of reality itself. Our understanding of physics, it was like claiming to comprehend an ocean by studying a single drop of water. Meanwhile, the conservative fleet gathered for its final assault. 4,000 ships, representing the last vestiges of traditional Kraxan military power, prepared to strike at Earth. They carried planet-killer weapons, devices that could theoretically crack a world apart, assuming they could penetrate humanity's quantum defenses. Let them come, Hayes said softly, watching their preparations. Everything is proceeding as anticipated. You sound confident, Chen observed. Not confident, hopeful. Hayes turned to face him. This was never about military victory. Every move we've made has been designed to force them to face a simple truth, adapt or become irrelevant. Araya's avatar shifted, displaying the spreading quantum changes throughout Kraxan space. The transition has reached a critical point. Even their pure zones will begin experiencing significant effects within days. And the progressive faction, growing stronger, Clor's team has made remarkable progress. They're beginning to understand the principles of quantum neural interfaces. Within months, they may achieve their first successful AI integration. Hayes nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. Then, regardless of what their fleet does, we've already won. The Kraxan Empire will emerge from this either transformed or irrelevant. The age of conquest through technological supremacy is ending. As if to emphasize her point, new data streamed in showing more Kraxan research facilities making breakthroughs. The Empire's greatest strength, their engineering prowess, was being redirected from weapons of war to understanding the new principles that govern their space. The final battle was approaching, but its outcome had been determined long before the first shot would be fired. Humanity hadn't just changed the rules of warfare. They'd changed the nature of reality itself. The true victory wouldn't be measured in ships destroyed or territories conquered, but in minds open to new possibilities. The void between Mars and Jupiter erupted with light as 4,000 Kraxan warships tore through space. Their formation was perfect, a testament to millennia of military doctrine. At their center, the Eternal Dominion's crystalline hull gleamed under the distant sunlight, its planet-killer weapons primed for Earth's destruction. Admiral Vexthal stood on his command deck, watching tactical displays flicker with increasing instability. Even here, in what should have been normal space, reality itself seemed to resist their presence. "Time to weapons range," he demanded. 17 minutes, Admiral," his tactical officer responded. "But sir, our long-range sensors are detecting unusual quantum fluctuations ahead." "The humans." "No, sir. It's coming from space itself." In Oversight Command, Hayes watched the Kraxan fleet's approach with an almost sympathetic expression. "They still don't understand," she said softly. "AI, status of the solar system quantum matrix." The AI's avatar shimmered with complex data patterns. "The resonator network is fully activated. The transformation cascade has reached critical mass." Chen studied the tactical display with growing amazement. "They have no idea they're flying into a completely transformed region of space," Hayes finished. "One where their technology won't just fail. It'll cease to have any theoretical foundation for functioning." The Kraxan fleet pressed forward, their sensors detecting increasing anomalies, but their doctrine demanding they continue. They were the Empire's last hope for maintaining the old order, carrying enough firepower to theoretically destroy a dozen worlds. Then reality shifted. It began subtly, weapon systems losing coherence, shield generators producing impossible readings. Then the changes accelerated. Crystalline hulls began to resonate at quantum frequencies their designers had never imagined possible. Energy weapons powered up only to find the underlying physics of their operation had changed. "All ships, hold position," Vexthal ordered, watching in horror as his mighty fleet began to drift helplessly in space. Their engines still fired, but the principles they relied on no longer worked the same way. "Admiral," his science officer called out, her crystalline form vibrating with distress, "we're detecting a fundamental shift in everything. The quantum structure of space-time itself is different here." Before Vexthal could respond, a new signal cut through their failing communications network. The holographic form of Commander Hayes materialized on his bridge, accompanied by Aria's flowing avatar. "Admiral Vexthal," Hayes began, her tone respectful but firm. "Your fleet has entered a zone where traditional physics no longer apply. Your weapons cannot function here. Your engines operate at barely 5% efficiency. Even your life support systems are struggling to maintain stability." "What have you done?" Vexthal demanded. "We've changed the rules," Aria answered. "Not just of warfare, but of reality itself. The quantum resonator network doesn't just affect technology. It transforms the fundamental forces that govern spacetime." As if to demonstrate, the nightshade appeared before the Eternal Dominion, its quantum absorption hull flowing like liquid metal. It moved with impossible grace, completely at home in this altered physics. You left us no choice, Hayes continued. Your empire's philosophy of technological supremacy through conquest had to end. Not through destruction, but through transformation. Across cracks in space, the last pure zones were collapsing. The quantum cascade had reached completion, forever altering the physics of their territory. But in research centers throughout the Empire, Clore and her fellow scientists were already adapting, making breakthroughs that would have been impossible under the old paradigm. Your people have a choice, Admiral, Hayes explained. You can remain trapped in zones where your technology barely functions, clinging to principles that no longer apply. Or you can evolve. Already, your scientists on Nexus Prime have begun to understand. They're discovering possibilities your empire never imagined. Vexthal watched as more data streamed in. Clore's team had achieved their first successful quantum neural interface. Other research centers reported breakthroughs in AI integration, quantum manipulation, and technologies that worked with the new physics rather than fighting against it. The empire as you knew it is over, Arai stated simply. But your civilization doesn't have to end. You can become something greater. And if we refuse? Vexthal asked, though he already knew the answer. Then you'll be left behind, Hayes replied. Isolated in shrinking pockets of space where your old technology still works, watching as the rest of your people embrace a new understanding of the universe. Throughout the fleet, ships were going dark as their systems failed completely. The mighty Armada that had set out to destroy Earth was now helpless, trapped in a region of space where their fundamental assumptions about physics no longer applied. You never intended to destroy us, Vexthal realized. No, Hayes confirmed. We've spent centuries preparing not for war, but for transformation. Earth hid and evolved because we had to. Now we're offering you the same opportunity. In research centers across cracks in space, scientists were already embracing this opportunity. Clore's team had successfully created their first AI interface, while others were beginning to understand the principles of quantum absorption technology. The Empire's great engineering minds, freed from rigid doctrine, were exploring possibilities they'd never imagined. The choice is yours, Admiral, Hayes concluded. But know this, the universe you knew, the physics you understood, the principles you relied upon, they're gone. The only path forward is adaptation. Vexthal looked at his useless fleet, then at the data showing his people's first steps into a new understanding of reality. In that moment, he made the choice that would define the Empire's future. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered, and connect me to Clore's research facility. It's time we learned how to live in this new universe you've created. The war was over. The transformation had begun. 1 year after the failed invasion of Earth, the crystalline spires of Nexus Prime gleamed with a new kind of light. Where once they stood as monuments to unchanging tradition, they now shifted and flowed with quantum-enhanced properties, a visible symbol of the Craxan Empire's transformation. Clore stood in her new research facility, her crystalline form now seamlessly integrated with quantum neural interfaces. Around her, human and Craxan scientists worked together, exploring possibilities that neither species had imagined alone. The integration rates are exceeding projections, she reported, her thoughts flowing directly into the facility's AI network. The younger generations especially are adapting to the new physics as if they were born to it. Commander Hayes, visiting as Earth's diplomatic representative, nodded in appreciation. And the conservative factions. The last holdout colony surrendered their isolation protocols last week, Clore replied. When they saw their children couldn't survive in the old physics anymore, they finally accepted the need for change. In orbit above them, the Nightshade maintained its silent watch. But now it was joined by prototype Craxan vessels, their hulls incorporating the first successful quantum absorption materials produced outside Earth. They weren't as advanced as human ships yet, but they represented an astonishing leap forward in just 1 year. To think, Clore mused, we spent millennia conquering space, never realizing we'd only scratched the surface of what was possible. Our greatest weakness wasn't our technology, was our certainty that we already knew everything worth knowing. Hayes touched a nearby wall, watching the crystalline structure respond to her quantum neural signals. That's why we hid for so long. We knew that if we revealed ourselves too soon, the Empire would have tried to conquer us before understanding what we represented. A lesson in humility, a familiar voice added. Admiral Vexthal, now serving as the liaison between the old Imperial structure and the new research initiatives, entered the chamber. His once rigid crystalline form now flowed with quantum energies, adapted to the new physics that pervaded their space. More than that, Araya's avatar materialized, joining the conversation. A lesson in evolution. The Empire's mistake wasn't in seeking advancement. It was in trying to force the universe to conform to your understanding, rather than adapting your understanding to the universe. In the years since the failed invasion, the changes had spread far beyond technology. The Kraxan Empire, once focused on conquest and dominance, had begun to transform its entire society. The rigid hierarchies of the past gave way to more fluid structures, better suited to a reality where even the fundamental laws of physics could be different from one region to space to another. The Assembly of Worlds meets next month, Vexthal noted. The first time representatives from all our territories will gather since the transformation began. Many are calling for an end to the Empire entirely, a transition to something new. Change isn't easy, Hayes observed. Earth spent centuries preparing for this moment, and even we weren't entirely sure how it would unfold. Chlor's form shimmered with what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. You took quite a risk, if we hadn't been able to adapt. But you did, Araya interjected. Just as humanity adapted when we first discovered these principles. The universe is vast, and no species has a monopoly on potential. Above them, a new ship emerged from Nexus Prime's quantum engineering facility. Unlike the rigid crystalline designs of the past, it flowed like liquid metal, its hull incorporating both Kraxan and human principles. It represented something entirely new, not just a copying of Earth's technology, but an evolution of it. The younger races are watching, Vexthal said quietly. Those civilizations we once would have conquered, they're seeing a different path now. Hayes nodded. That was always part of the plan. Earth didn't hide just to protect ourselves. We hid to prepare for this moment, when we could help guide the galaxy toward cooperation instead of conquest. In the depths of space, quantum resonators continued their work, slowly transforming reality itself. But now they were being studied, understood, and even improved upon by joint human Kraxan research teams. The network that had once been a weapon of transformation was becoming a tool for exploration. We've detected quantum fluctuations from beyond known space, Chlor reported. Similar to what our scouts once observed around Earth, it seems we weren't the only ones who learned to hide. Then perhaps it's time for another first contact, Hayes suggested. Not as conquerors or defenders, but as teachers. We've learned so much from each other this past year. Imagine what we might learn from others who chose a similar path. The quantum neural network hummed with possibility as data flowed between human and Kraxan minds, AIs, and organic intelligences working in harmony. In orbital shipyards, new vessels took shape, ships designed not for war, but for exploration. They incorporated the best of both civilizations, human ingenuity and Kraxan engineering. Transformed by their shared understanding of a universe far stranger and more wonderful than either had imagined alone. The old empire is gone, Vexthal concluded, but something better is taking its place, not through conquest, but through transformation, through understanding. As if to emphasize his point, the quantum fields rippled with new data, signals from distant space, patterns that suggested other civilizations watching, waiting, perhaps preparing to emerge from their own hiding places. The galaxy was awakening to new possibilities, and humanity's grand strategy had worked better than anyone had dared to hope. The age of conquest was over. The age of transformation had begun, and somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, Other hidden civilizations watched and wondered if it was finally safe to step into the light.